Have you ever felt like your mind is a room with no windows? You sit in the same chair, staring at the same glowing screen, trying to solve the same problems with the same tired thoughts. You feel heavy, stagnant, as if the very air around you has turned to stone. We live in a world that demands we stay seated, in offices, in cars, on sofas, while our minds race at 1,000. This disconnection between a still body and a frantic mind is a recipe for deep anxiety. But there is an ancient, kinetic medicine that costs nothing and requires no special equipment. It is the simple act of placing one foot in front of the other. Consider the story of a man named Arthur. Arthur was a strategist for a large firm. His life was a series of complex puzzles, spreadsheets, and high-stakes decisions. He prided himself on his intellect, believing that every problem could be solved if he just sat still and thought hard enough. But the harder he thought, the more the knot in his mind tightened. He felt paralyzed by his own mental loops. He was a prisoner in a fortress of his own logic, and the walls were closing in. One Saturday morning, unable to bear the silence of his apartment, Arthur drove to a nearby forest. He intended to sit on a bench and think through his stress, but when he arrived, he found an elderly woman named Elena slowly walking along a winding path. She wasn't wearing hiking gear, she was simply moving, her eyes fixed on the horizon, her arms swinging gently at her sides. "You look like a man trying to carry a mountain while sitting down," Elena said as she passed him. Arthur sighed. "I have too much to figure out to just walk, Elena. Walking feels like wasting time." Elena stopped and smiled. "The mind is like a tangled ball of yarn, Arthur. If you pull at it while sitting still, the knot only gets tighter. But when you walk, the yarn begins to unspool behind you. You don't walk to find the answer. You walk to let the answer find you. The feet are the sweepers of the soul." This is the philosophy of walking, a practice embraced by the greatest thinkers in history, from the Stoics of ancient Greece to the Zen monks of the East. Nietzsche once wrote that, "All truly great thoughts are conceived by walking." There is a deep biological reason for this. When we move our bodies, we break the stagnation of our environment. We move from being a target for our thoughts to being a traveler through them. To master the philosophy of walking, you must first learn the cadence of the soul. Most of us walk to get somewhere. We walk to the train, to the store, or to a meeting. Our movement is fueled by the future, but the meditative walk has no destination. It is a solitude in motion. When you walk without a goal, you are practicing the ultimate form of letting go. You are telling the world that for these 30 minutes, you do not need to produce. You do not need to achieve, and you do not need to be Simone. You are simply a human being in a kinetic prayer. The second pillar is the shift of vista. When you are stuck in a room, your problems feel as big as the walls. But when you walk outside, you are reminded of the scale of the world. You see the sky, which is vast and indifferent to your deadlines. You see the trees, which grow with a patience that puts your frantic pace to shame. This is the Stoic practice of the view from above. By moving through a larger vista, you realize that your internal storm is actually a very small weather pattern in a very large sky. You regain your sense of control by realizing how much of the world you don't need to control. Arthur decided to follow Elena's lead. He didn't try to solve his problems. He just walked. At first, his mind screamed at him. It listed all the emails he wasn't answering and all the projects that were stalling. But as the rhythm of his steps began to synchronize with his breathing, something strange happened. The screaming turned into a hum. The hum turned into a whisper. And finally, there was a space, a clear, cool gap between his thoughts. He realized that his problems weren't actually in the world. They were in the way he was sitting with them. By moving his body, he had moved his perspective. He wasn't a failure or a success. He was a man walking through a forest. The weight on his chest didn't disappear, but it became lighter. like a backpack he was finally strong enough to carry. Walking is a form of active silence. It allows the mud of your mind to settle, not by force, but by the natural cadence of movement. It is the realization that you are not a brain in a box. You are an animal meant for the earth. When you walk, you re-establish your connection to the present moment. You feel the ground beneath your feet, the wind on your face, and the rhythm of your own heart. This is the foundation of tranquility. As you go through your week, notice how much time you spend stuck. When the anxiety begins to rise, do not try to think your way out of it. Stand up, open the door, walk. Do not take your phone. Do not take your music. Just take your breath and your feet. Observe the rhythm of your steps. Notice the way the light changes as you move. Do not look for a destination. Look for the now. You will find that after a mile or two, the person who started the walk is not the same person who is finishing it. The you that was stressed and paralyzed has been left behind on the path. You are the sovereign of your movement. Your feet are your wings. The world is waiting to hold your weight. Step out of your mental prison and into the open air. For in the philosophy of walking, you will find that the path to peace is not something you find. It is something you create, one step at a time.